The night before the surgery, I, however, resolutely resigned from the position of lead surgeon. My colleagues in the department mocked me mercilessly. They said I was incapable of handling such a heavy responsibility. A so-called doctor returned from studying abroad. They suspected my degree came from some obscure, low-tier university. They claimed I would only shrink back at the first sign of difficulty. They said I was utterly unfit to be a doctor. In my previous life, I gave up competing in the general practice doctor skills contest. Instead, I took on this surgery. Little did I know that another lead surgeon in the operation would act in violation of the rules, causing a major medical incident. My sister, the department head, pushed all the blame onto me. Even my girlfriend, without hesitation, stood by his side. She chastised me for my lack of medical skill. I went from being an admired medical doctor to becoming the target of public scorn. Unable to prove that my actions were not the cause of the mistake, I was not only dismissed by the hospital, but also found myself trapped in legal trouble. My parents, who had once been proud of me, now glared at me with anger, harshly rebuking me. "We will never accept a son who values human life so little." As a result, I developed severe depression and eventually jumped off the roof. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the night before the surgery. This surgery was incredibly complicated. The hospital decided to assign you as the lead surgeon. Do you have confidence in the department? My sister smiled as she placed a medical file in front of me. I stared at the medical file, my body involuntarily trembling. After a moment, I regained my composure. I decisively shook my head. I had just returned from abroad. I still needed some time to study. I wasn't yet suitable for such a major surgery. In my past life, it was because of this surgery that I fell into an inescapable abyss. And my sister, who had always been so kind to me, was the one who set all of this in motion. Back then, I had taken on the surgery without hesitation. Together with another doctor from the department, Zhangzi, wielding our scalpel. However, Zhangzi was in poor condition. He made frequent mistakes during the surgery, though I kept reminding him. It still led to irreparable consequences. Though I had nothing to do with the matter, I still found myself caught in an unexpected disaster. My sister, the department head, placed all the blame on me. In one night, I became the most despised person. Not only was I reviled by everyone, I also lost my job. Unable to bear the blow, I ended my life in a haze of despair. My sister frowned at me. There was a faint disappointment in her eyes. "This is a great opportunity. I fought hard to get this for you. Why won't you take it?" I pushed the medical file back in front of her and smiled, saying, "My abilities are limited. I am not fit for such a responsibility." She listened to my words. On the side, my girlfriend, Liu Ryan, immediately began scolding me. "Gu Yuan, can't you be brave like a man for once? Why are you always so hesitant about everything? How will your career ever progress?" Looking at her furious expression, I could only laugh inwardly. The two of them seemed to care more about me than the other. But in reality, in their hearts, I would never measure up to even a single strand of Zhangzi's hair. I stood up and looked at her. Zhangzi graduated from a prestigious school. He's superior to me in every way. He can handle this surgery on his own. The tragic experiences from my past life were still vivid in my mind. Having lived again, I would never make the same mistake. Upon hearing my words, both my sister and Liu Ryan were stunned. Then, Liu Ryan took my hand and encouraged me. "So you should aim to be like Brother Zhangzi. Strive to become an outstanding doctor like him as soon as possible." When she spoke Zhangzi's name, it was as if she had transformed into a different person. Even her tone carried an inexplicable excitement. I suppressed the discomfort in my heart and rejected her again. "I'm currently preparing for a general practitioner skills competition. I can't participate in this surgery." The reason they were so eager to have me and Zhangzi do this surgery together was because deep down they both knew that without me joining, with Zhangzi's level of skill, it would be impossible for him to complete this surgery. If this extremely complicated surgery were successful, Zhangzi's career would gain an immensely valuable addition. Seeing their questioning gazes, I took out a document from my folder and placed it in front of them. What? Don't you even believe my words? After seeing the document in my hand, Liu Ryan's face immediately filled with anger. This is such an important competition. Why didn't you tell brother Zhangzi? Are you afraid that Zhangzi will steal your spotlight? My sister's face also became somewhat displeased. We're all colleagues in the same hospital. Why can't you share? I've never met someone so selfish as you. This is the first time I've ever seen someone like you. I looked at them in disbelief. It's not like Zhangzi and I are close. Why should I tell him? Although we're in the same department, Zhangzi has a proud personality. For someone like me, a newcomer to the hospital, he's always been indifferent. In the past 6 months, I've hardly exchanged more than 3 words with him. Should I still be blamed for this? Liu Ryan, after hearing my words, became even more enraged. After all this time, don't you still understand brother Zhangzi's character? As colleagues, can't you be more proactive? Handle your relationship with him. After saying this, Liu Ryan immediately pulled out her phone and called the organizer of the skills competition to register Zhangzi. My sister, Gunan, directly walked out to ask Zhangzi about his intentions in person. I watched the scene unfold before me. A feeling of bitterness filled my heart. In their eyes, I was like an outsider, completely irrelevant to everything. After a moment, Liu Ryan finally finished the call. The registration was full. Zhangzi could no longer sign up. Liu Ryan's face was full of urgency. She kept muttering to herself, if brother Zhangzi can't register for such an important competition, his future will definitely be affected. No, I must find a way for brother Zhangzi. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. She looked directly at me. Don't you have a spot? If you give up your spot, Zhangzi can smoothly participate in the competition. Listening to Liu Ryan's words, my body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Even my breath became a little difficult. Zhangzi's future was important. But wasn't my future important as well? All these years with her, I had always considered her more important than my own life. But in her eyes, I would never compare to Zhangzi, who had no relation to her. Liu Ryan glanced at me and unexpectedly asked, almost coquettishly, Zhangzi is older than you. Why don't you just give him this spot? You're still young. There will be plenty of opportunities ahead. Seeing Liu Ryan's overly flattering demeanor, I couldn't help but laugh coldly inside. It turns out that the woman always known as the strong and independent one could turn into this delicate and spoiled person for Zhangzi. But unfortunately, I was no longer as naive as I was in my past life. I wouldn't be foolish enough to let them lead me around by the nose. Gu Yuan, Ryan is right. You're still young. Just let Zhangzi have this opportunity. I was still thinking. When Gunan entered with Zhangzi, I looked up at them. Our eyes met directly. Zhangzi's gaze was full of mockery. It seemed as though he was ridiculing my incompetence. I shook my head firmly. You have no right to choose my life for me. After saying this, I turned and walked out without looking back. To my surprise, during the 2 days of the competition, they didn't bother me again. I picked up my phone and checked my social media, only to find Zhangzi had taken the surgery on his own. I originally thought there wouldn't be any more problems with this matter. But when I returned from the competition, Gunan and Liu Ryan immediately found me. Their expressions were full of panic. Gu Yuan, this time you must save brother Zhangzi. If you don't help him, he's really going to die this time. I immediately guessed that something had gone wrong with Zhangzi's surgery again. I looked at them coldly and asked, how am I supposed to save him in this situation? This time, I'm not even at the hospital. They can't possibly blame me for this, can they? But what Gunan said next completely shocked me. I'll handle this matter. You just need to help Zhongzi. You haven't been at the hospital long. Even if there's a mistake, no one will blame you too much. Hearing Gunan's words, I felt like I had fallen into an icy abyss. As her own brother, she was actively asking me to take on such a huge responsibility for Zhongzi. Once I took the fall for Zhongzi, not only would I ruin my career, but I'd also face the threat of imprisonment. The experiences from my past life were still vivid in my mind. Without even thinking, I firmly rejected. As a doctor, if a surgery goes wrong, he should be the one to take responsibility. Why should I take the fall for him? Liu Ryan, hearing my words, became even more urgent. Isn't it normal for colleagues to help each other? As long as you help Brother Zhongzi this time, we'll all remember your kindness. Hearing her words full of moral coercion, I could no longer control the anger bubbling inside me. Have you ever thought about my feelings, always thinking of Zhongzi? Don't forget, one of you is my own sister. One of you is my girlfriend. By the end, my voice was almost trembling with emotion. In my past life, the two of you pushed me to a dead end because of Zhongzi. I could never rest in peace, even in death. Do you both really want me to repeat the tragedy from my past life? But my sister Gunan's tone was filled with unwavering certainty. Gu Yuan, this isn't up to you. I've already arranged everything for Zhongzi. This matter must be on your shoulders. As she spoke, Gunan slammed a stack of documents onto the table in front of me. They had even forged the evidence in front of me. They had made everything so flawless. If I weren't the one involved, anyone who looked at it would never notice a thing. For Zhongzi, they had gone to such lengths. In my heart, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. I had truly underestimated their determination to help Zhongzi. But on my face, there was no sign of panic. Instead, I looked at them with a smile. Aren't you afraid I'll send you both to jail for this? What do you mean by that? I'm your own sister. How dare you do such a treasonous thing? Mom and Dad will never let you off. Gunan's face darkened as she continued to threaten me. In her eyes, I had always been the weak-willed one. Every time she intimidated me, I would break down in tears. I didn't know why I had become so resolute this time. I sneered and looked at her. Now you remember we're still family? As your brother, how could you ask me to take the fall for someone else? Do you think you deserve to be called an elder sister? From now on, I don't want any relationship with you anymore. You'd better not provoke me again. After everything that had just happened, I was completely disappointed in them. If they continued to harass me, I wouldn't hesitate to send them all to jail. Seeing that Gunan had failed to convince me, Liu Ryan quickly stepped forward. Gu Yuan, how can you say such cruel things? Even if Nan Ya wants you to take responsibility for this, she won't treat you unfairly, Zhongzi said. As long as you take the fall for this, he'll give you 300,000. With your current ability, it would take at least for years to earn 300,000, right? No matter how you look at it, you won't lose anything. After hearing this, I could only laugh, based on what I knew about Zhongzi from my past life. He's always been addicted to online gambling, often living in a state of barely having enough to eat. Don't even talk about 300,000. He probably couldn't even come up with 3,000. This 300,000. I don't even need to think. It's definitely Gunan and Liu Ryan who pulled it together for him. And the consequences of this matter are far more serious than they've said. Otherwise, in my past life, I wouldn't have been pushed to the point of jumping off a building. Even now, they are still trying every trick in the book to deceive me. For Zhongzi, they've completely lost their minds. I looked at them coldly. They think 300,000 can buy my future? Isn't that a little too cheap? My expenses for studying abroad for a year weren't even worth that much. After saying that, I didn't give them any more chance to persuade me. I started to busy myself at my desk. Liu Ryan and Gu Nan's gazes turned extremely dark, as if they wanted to tear me apart. I glanced at them lightly, not bothered in the least. Our conversation had actually been recorded earlier. If they dared to do anything extreme, I'd just post the recording online. Let them experience what it feels like to have their reputation ruined. Zhangzi suddenly kicked open the office door, his face filled with rage. He glared at me furiously, his hands grabbing my collar. How did you get the surveillance footage from the operating room? I gave him a slight smile and looked back at him. If you've done something wrong, you should take responsibility for it. I don't think it will cause any harm to check the footage. Since I have the chance to live again, I might as well keep some cards up my sleeve. Back when I decided to join the competition, I asked my classmate to secretly record the video of Zhangzi entering the operating room. That way, even if they try to make me the scapegoat, no matter how hard they push, I won't be forced into anything as long as I refuse. As long as I'm willing, they can't make me do anything. Listening to our conversation, Gu Nan stepped in front of me. Gu Yuan, do you realize that accessing surveillance footage without permission is against the rules? I hope you delete the video you have as soon as possible. Otherwise, I have the right to expel you. Looking at Gu Nan's determined expression, a faint, bitter smile crossed my face. I couldn't ask for more. In the recent skills competition, because of my excellent performance, I had already received numerous invitations from hospitals. Most of those hospitals were public ones, with far better treatment than this private hospital. Thinking of this, I took out the resignation letter I had prepared earlier and placed it in front of Gu Nan. This is my resignation letter. I hope you'll sign it as soon as possible. Gu Nan looked at me in disbelief. You've already planned your escape route. I suggest you think this through carefully. Without my protection, you, a returnee from studying abroad, are nothing. I never expected that, even at this point, she would still try to manipulate me with her subtle tactics. I shook my head and didn't continue the conversation. Instead, I directly walked out of the hospital. As I stepped out of the hospital office, I vaguely heard Liu Ruyan's voice comforting Zhangzi. Zhangzi! Don't worry, wait until tonight. I'll go and persuade him properly. His soft heart will definitely make him agree. A bright smile flashed across my face. This time, I wouldn't give them any chance to maneuver. After leaving the hospital, I sent the recordings and videos on my phone to the regulatory authorities. After listening, the regulatory officials immediately became furious. We will send people to investigate this matter thoroughly. I nodded with a smile. Please make sure you do it quickly. Otherwise, I'm afraid they'll come up with another way to force me to submit. The regulatory officials immediately assured me that they would give me an answer within at most 3 days. Only then was I satisfied, returning home to rest. In a week, I would be able to start working at another public hospital. I had just returned home. Gu Nan and Liu Ruyan were already sitting at home, waiting for me. Next to them, my parents were also there. As soon as I walked in, Gu Nan immediately started complaining to my father, looking pitiful. Now Yuan is completely out of control. He won't even listen to me as his sister. He's threatening to send me to jail. Mom, Dad, you have to help me out. My father had always favored Gu Nan. After hearing this, he immediately stood up and slapped me across the face. You good for nothing. Your sister worked so hard to get you into their hospital. Why would you resign? I held my stinging face and looked at my father. Shouldn't you ask me the reason before deciding to hit me? In my previous life, it was because they blindly trusted Gu Nan's words ... And when I was already struggling, they even kicked me when I was down. That's what made me feel like life wasn't worth living and pushed me to extremes. In this life, I absolutely refuse to be pushed around like before. No matter what, I need to make myself clear to them. But my father's tone grew even angrier. You've never been as good as your sister at anything. What more do you have to say? In his eyes, everything I had was practically given to me by Gunan. I should respect her just as I respect my elders. I took out my phone and placed the recording from our conversation in the office in front of my father. This is how your precious daughter operates. Do you want to listen properly? My father furrowed his brows and picked up the phone. After listening, he looked at Gunan in disbelief. Zenon, what is this about? Gunan clearly didn't expect that I would record our conversation. Her face instantly turned pale. She trembled and pointed at me. Gu Yuan, do you have no shame? We're just chatting casually and you record it. I sneered and looked at her. Is this just a casual chat? This is clearly an attempt to ruin me. Gunan's face twitched. It seemed like she was trying hard to come up with an excuse. However, when my father looked at her, there was no longer any sign of the affection he usually had. He looked at Gunan with confusion. Ziyuan is your own brother. How could you do something like this? Do you know how much effort your mother and I have put into raising Ziyuan over the years? Gunan's gaze began to flicker. She no longer dared to meet my father's eyes. After a long while, she finally stood up again and looked at my father. It's my fault. I won't purposely make things difficult for Ziyuan anymore. Although she said this, there was not a hint of remorse in her eyes. She didn't even offer me a fake apology. After speaking, before my father could respond, she shot me a resentful glare and walked straight out of the house. Liu Ruyan, who was still sitting on the sofa, showed no intention of moving. I watched her with interest. Aren't you going to join Gunan and comfort your Zhangzi? A faint smile squeezed its way onto Liu Ruyan's face. My relationship with Zhangzi is just a professional one. I'm not obligated to comfort him. However, as she said this, her eyes flickered restlessly. In that instant, I understood she had definitely dug another pit for me to fall into. But I couldn't be bothered to analyze it any further. Anyway, I had already submitted everything that needed to be submitted. Now I was just waiting for the results of the investigation. With that in mind, I went back to my room. I was about to lie down and rest, when suddenly, Liu Ruyan quietly walked in. She looked at me with a seductive expression. We've been together for so long, but we've never made any progress. Tonight, I want to sleep with you. I looked at her in disbelief. Why the sudden change of heart? I had been with Liu Ruyan for nearly 3 years. She had always claimed to be a very traditional woman, and insisted that she wouldn't cross any lines before marriage. For the past 3 years, I hadn't even touched her hand, let alone something like this today. Liu Ruyan paused for a moment. With a smile, she said to me, "People's thoughts can change. Anyway, we've been together for so long. We already understand each other very well. I'm sure there's no problem." As she spoke, she lovingly lay in my arms. What she didn't realize, though, was that as I held her, my face was filled with a mocking expression. Since she wanted this, I would certainly play along. Late at night, Liu Ruyan silently slipped out of my arms. She picked up my phone and started rummaging through my photo album. She was trying to find the video of Zhangzi entering the operating room that I had recorded on my phone. But when she had gone through all the videos on my phone, she froze in place. As soon as Gunan walked out of the house, I had my private investigator, whom I had hired at great expense, follow her. And sure enough, as I had suspected, she went to meet Zhangzi for a date. It seemed like it had been a long time since they had been intimate, so they had driven out to the suburbs to have a wild affair. The entire scene was captured by the private investigator I hired. Unexpectedly, Liu Ruyan had seen all of it. She watched the video. Her face slowly turned pale. Even her breathing became extremely hurried. Although she and Gunan mostly stood on the same side, They had often been at odds in private, competing for Zhangzi. Now, she hadn't even touched Zhangzi's body, yet Gunan had already done that with him. This feeling of defeat was something she, with her strong-willed personality, couldn't tolerate at all. She took a deep breath and immediately made a video call to Gunan using her phone. At that moment, Gunan, lying in Zhangzi's arms, still thought it was me. Having thought it through and wanting to soften up, without any hesitation, she pressed the answer button. On the other side of the video, Liu Yuyan looked at the two of them, smiling happily, her expression twisting slightly. She screamed hysterically at Gunan. "You said you two weren't together. They've already shared the same bed, and you're still saying you're not together?" Seeing Liu Yuyan acting somewhat crazed, Gunan finally reacted and stammered in an attempt to explain. "Today, I was feeling a bit down, so I came to talk with Zhangzi. Yuyan, you! Please don't misunderstand." Although she had already beaten her to it, but Liu Yuyan knew too many of her secrets, so she still tried to consider Liu Yuyan's feelings. Liu Yuyan's face darkened to the point that it almost seemed like it could drip with water. She kept waving her finger and sent the video I had previously saved on my phone. "So this is what you call just chatting? Gunan, do you really think I'm a fool? You two, this pair of dog lovers, will never have a good ending." Although Yu Yin was my official girlfriend, she had long been completely captivated by Zhangzi. Seeing the man she had been thinking about holding another woman in his arms, this pain almost drove her to madness. Seeing that she had been secretly filmed, Gunan's anger surged within her. "Liu Yuyan, you really have no shame. You're already Gu Yuan's girlfriend, and yet you're still holding hands with him. And still want to claim Zhangzi? I'll tell you, you'll never have a chance in this life. Zhangzi and I are getting married soon." Gunan had always seen Liu Yuyan as her biggest threat. Now that the mask had been torn off, she didn't need to worry about Liu Yuyan's feelings anymore. Liu Yuyan was panting. Looking at Zhangzi in disbelief, she asked, "Zhangzi, is what she said true?" Zhangzi nodded without any hesitation. "That's right. In 1 month, Zinan and I will hold our wedding." Gunan was far superior to Liu Yuyan in many aspects. And most importantly, her income was nearly double that of Liu Yuyan's. He had no reason to choose Liu Yuyan. Hearing Zhangzi's words, Liu Yuyan's phone suddenly slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. Her entire being seemed drained, collapsing powerlessly to the floor. I climbed off the bed, casually picking up my phone and looking at her. "I heard everything you all just talked about. If you like Zhangzi that much, then go ahead and pursue him boldly. After all, they aren't married yet, so it wouldn't count as you being a third party." Liu Yuyan, struggling to suppress her tears, looked at me in disbelief. "What do you mean by that?" I smiled at her. "Didn't I make myself clear enough? We're done. For someone like you, who bites the hand that feeds them, I feel nothing but disgust." Since all her thoughts were fixated on Zhangzi, if she had directly asked to break up with me, I might have respected her more. But now, she only made me feel repulsed. Liu Yuyan looked at me in disbelief. "Even you don't want me anymore?" I looked at her with a mocking expression. "Do I look like a garbage dump? Why should I want you?" The years I spent with Liu Yuyan, apart from her endless pua tactics every day, she had never brought me any help. This was never the kind of love I had hoped for in my heart. So I had to seize this opportunity to completely cut ties with her. Before Liu Yuyan could continue speaking, I stood up and packed her things. "Now, please leave my house." Liu Yuyan glanced at the clock. It was already 2 a.m. She trembled as she asked, "It's already this late. Where do you want me to go?" I shrugged, my face filled with indifference. "This is your problem. Why are you asking me? After saying that, I dragged her out of my house. At the moment we stepped out the door, Liu Yuyan looked at me with terror-filled eyes. Gu Yuan, can you give me one more chance? I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I really don't want to lose you over that worthless man. Just give me one more chance, and I'll make it up to you. I sighed deeply, staring directly at her. Some things, once they've happened, can never be undone. If a simple apology could solve everything, there wouldn't be so many tragedies in this world. After speaking, without hesitation, I slammed the security door shut. I let Liu Yuyan continue to knock on the outside. I didn't open the door again. Half an hour later, Liu Yuyan's voice outside finally quieted down. My phone received a message from her. I will give you an explanation about Zhongzi. I glanced at it dismissively, then tossed the phone aside and went back to sleep. Whatever explanation Liu Yuyan wanted to give, it no longer had anything to do with me. We were all adults now, and whatever actions we took, we had to be responsible for them. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a hurried knocking on the door. My dad stood at the doorway, urgently calling to me. Zi Yuan, wake up quickly. Your sister's in trouble. I sluggishly climbed out of bed, looking at my dad curiously and asking, she's in her 30s. What kind of trouble could she be in? Oh no! Don't ask, just go to the hospital and see for yourself. Without letting me say another word, my dad grabbed my hand and dragged me outside. In no time, we arrived at the hospital. By then, Gunan and Zhongzi had already been sent to the ICU. Outside the ICU, a crowd of police officers stood. I'm the brother of the patient inside. I walked up to one of the officers and asked. The officer, with a somber expression, replied to me, your sister was involved in an attempted murder incident. Although the suspect has been apprehended, both of their conditions are critical right now. We don't know if they can be saved. Upon hearing the officer's words, I immediately deduced the situation. Was the attacker a woman named Liu Yuyan? If I'm not mistaken, this must be the explanation Liu Yuyan mentioned. But I didn't expect her to be this crazy. To have pushed both Zhongzi and Gunan into the ICU. The officer looked at me in surprise. How did you know? To avoid any unnecessary complications, I had no choice but to tell them exactly what happened last night. After hearing the story, the officer looked at me with some sympathy. I didn't expect it to escalate like this. It's just a love triangle after all. Your girlfriend's personality is really extreme. I forced a helpless smile. If it was just because of me, she definitely wouldn't have done something this insane. But Zhongzi betrayed her. That would make anyone lose their mind. Liu Yuyan may say it's to give me an explanation. But in reality, she was just venting her own frustration. Because I know exactly where I stand in her heart. If it were just a simple breakup, she wouldn't have done something this insane. In fact, she'd probably be celebrating instead. Are the family members of the patient here? The patient is about to pass away. Please hurry and go see them one last time. Two doctors walked out of the ward and said to us. Seeing this, my dad hurriedly entered. But my face remained indifferent. My feelings for Gunan had already been exhausted. The moment I was forced to die in my past life. Whether she lives or dies is entirely her own doing. It has nothing to do with me. I walked slowly into the room. Gunan's face was pale. She mustered all her strength to look at my dad and ask, Zhong, how is it ... now? Upon hearing her words, my dad's face, which was originally filled with worrying, immediately turned to anger. Look what he's done to you. And you're still thinking about him? Gunan shook her head, her face becoming agitated. No! It's not his fault. It's all that bitch Liu Yuyan's fault. If I become a ghost, I'll never let her off. Just as Gunan finished speaking, the heart monitor beside her turned into a flat line. My face was filled with disappointment. I had originally planned for her to lose everything, to live in endless pain. I didn't expect that Liu Yen would be the one to put an end to it. My dad was about to call the doctor, but I stopped him because I could immediately tell her condition was beyond saving. I took a step out of the room, intending to check on Zhang Zi, but I was stopped by the same officer from earlier. Mr. Gu, I know you must be in great pain right now, but your girlfriend insists that we bring you to see her one last time before she tells us the full story of the crime. Do you think you could cooperate with us? Without thinking, I agreed. As for the officer's mention of pain, I felt nothing. In fact, deep down, I was more relieved by this outcome than Liu Yan's. I followed the officer to the police station. At that moment, Liu Yan was sitting in the interrogation room, disheveled. When she saw me walk in, her emotions immediately became agitated. She struggled, trying to get closer to me, but her body was firmly restrained by handcuffs and chains. Only after the officer's warnings did she slowly sit down, staring at me with a pale face. Gu Yuan, now both of those dogs are dead by my hands. Can you forgive me now? I gave her a complex look, but said nothing. Whether the first forgave her or not didn't matter to her anymore, because it wouldn't be long before she would have to pay the price for her actions. Seeing my indifferent expression, Yu Yan's face was filled with agony. I've gone to this extent just to make you forgive me, and yet, not even a single word from you? I snorted coldly, staring at her. Don't try to blame me for your mess. You're only doing this for yourself, and the outcome you've brought upon yourself is entirely your own doing. Don't blame anyone else. After saying that, I lost all interest in continuing the conversation with her. I stood up and walked out of the interrogation room. We were strangers with no ties to each other. There was no need to exchange any more false pleasantries. After resting at home for a few days, the authorities came to find me again. They told me they had thoroughly investigated Gunnan's criminal involvement and that the police would soon be involved. I could only smile and tell them, there's no need, because she's no longer alive. A month later, the investigation into Liu Yan's murder was fully concluded. The police presented the case to the court. In the end, Liu Yan was convicted of premeditated murder with extremely aggravating circumstances. She was sentenced to death with immediate execution. Liu Yan did not appeal, and in court, she expressed her willingness to atone for the mistakes she had made. After that, I never heard another word about her, nor did I ever intentionally inquire. For me, they were nothing more than a brief, unpleasant chapter in the journey of my life. Ahead of me, a more dazzling future awaited. In the year after this incident, I not only successfully established myself in a public hospital, but I also met the love of my life, Lin Xiu. We clicked instantly, like old friends reunited after years. Every day, we had endless conversations and countless interesting stories to share. In the second month after we met, we quickly walked down the aisle. At the time, our friends advised me to take more time before deciding to marry. But without hesitation, I rejected their advice. Because I knew finding someone who makes you act on impulse isn't easy. If I didn't seize this chance, I would regret it for the rest of my life. After we married, life was even sweeter than I had imagined. We worked together, shared household responsibilities, and life became more beautiful with each passing day. With my wife Lin Xiu's encouragement, my career began to soar. In just 5 years, I became the head of my department, and my colleagues and I published many groundbreaking papers in international journals. Every day at work, I made sure not to slack off, because I knew only by working harder could I save more patients in the future and give them the opportunity for a happy and fulfilling life. The end.